This is Matt for Boxing Social in association with William Hill and Empire Fight Store. Delighted to be joined by Paul Smith. Paul, talk to me, how was Saudi Arabia? You look to be having a lot of fun over there.
Yeah, it was great. It was a good place. It's first time in Riyadh. I've been to Jeddah twice, and it was great. The country's really coming on. It's building up pretty quick, and it's becoming sort of a hub for boxing at the moment. The Skills Challenge are doing great things over there. They're developing their own fighters, they're signing the big fights, they're putting a lot of time and money and investment into boxing, and they're going to end up with some massive fights in the next couple of years. But it was great to be there. Really enjoyed it this time, and the time before it was brilliant. Riyadh was lovely, and I can't wait to get back.
Some spectacle for an 8-rounder. I saw Cristiano Ronaldo, Kevin Hart. I'm looking around the ring going, this is fair, an 8-rounder with no disrespect to them both, novice professional boxers, something we would see maybe on the YouTube before the bells and all these kind of shows. What did you make of the fight? Just talk me through it. What did you make of it?
I thought it was pretty straightforward for Fury, as it should have been. I fancied him in the first couple of rounds. I had a little bet on the first 2 rounds of the fight. I always thought he'd when it first got mentioned, I thought, it could be, because we've watched Jake Paul in there with the likes of, what's his name?
Tyrone Woodley.
Tyrone Woodley, sorry, and I thought this is Anderson Silva, and I get mixed up with UFC lads. Tyrone Woodley and the basketballers and things like that, but never a boxer. And when people had asked your opinion on it, which I get asked a lot on it, off just mates, friends, people on the street, anyone else, then it's always the same answer. When he boxes a boxer, I'll we'll see a big difference, and I'll let you know my opinion on him then. But the more I thought about it, especially through fight week, it should have been the easiest night's work ever for Tommy Fury, and it was relatively straightforward, I thought. I don't think the fight was close. It definitely been I don't know how one judge gave him it. It was a split decision. The knockdowns on him made it seem a bit closer than what it was, but it wasn't close. And that's the difference between a proper boxer and someone who's only just sort of got into the game to take it up as a hobby. The natural boxing and the legitimate bona fide boxer should always win and win easy, as I felt he did.
What do you think for Tommy Fury now? Obviously, we heard there's a rematch. We expect it to happen, and if he gets through that, is it going to be a case of what he really wants to do? Because he's earned a shed load of money from this fight. He'll earn a bucket load for the second. As a boxer, it's always, you want to win world titles, but you want the finances to, after boxing, be able to have enough kind of thing for life after boxing. Is he going to be at a crossroads where he goes, am I going to be able to bring myself down to start fighting for English titles, fighting for British and going down that? Is he going to be at that crossroads soon, and what do you think he'll do?
I think it's a great question. I think he has to have a look at himself with his family, and his family are no strangers to boxing. They're one of the most famous names in boxing history. Families in boxing history have the family name because of what Tyson's done, and it's a case of, are you going to win a world title? Reality is probably not. You're at a weight where it might be a bit easier to win a world title at cruiserweight or bridgerweight. You're not down at like featherweight, bantamweight, middleweight with the average people in the world. There's a lot of top fighters at them weights. I'm not saying there's not good cruiserweights, obviously, but the cruiserweights are at a bit of a problem weight where they're too big for light heavy, they're too small for heavy, and the gap between them and then the gap between heavyweight is so big that people are going to try and kill themselves to get to cruiserweight. That new bridgerweight thing is coming, that might be an opportunity for him, but realistically, you're going to win a genuine world title? Probably not. And I'm not slagging the kid off saying that. You said at the start of this yourself, he's a novice pro. Yeah. And he's 7-0 now, is it, or 8-0? So you can go and try and fight for an English title, British title, you might lose and you might get paid well for it, or you can still have these fights and these type of fights. You're still a professional boxer. You can maybe try and manoeuvre yourself into some form of title fight for a different title, but ultimately that old saying is you can't feed your kids with a belt, and if you're making serious money by doing something that you love, albeit not at the level that you'd probably deep down dream and wish you could be at, you can still make a shed load of money. He's made more money than half the world champions in this country put together. That's a fact in that one fight where someone on a crossover type of thing, even though you are a professional boxer. I'd take that if I was advising him and backing him and his family and his friends, I'd tell him to take that fight, to take that rematch again, and then just do what you want to do. Then it's up to him what he wants to do, but he'll never have to worry about money again.
I think it'll be interesting. I think we've got to remember as well, he's still
pressure on his shoulders as well, by the way.
Yeah,
massive pressure.
I was going to come on to that, because when you think about it, and it's easy to say he should win because he's a boxer, but you have Tyson Fury, Lenihan, without doubt number one heavyweight in the world, John Fury, who doesn't mince his words, and when they come out with statements like, you won't be coming home if you don't beat him, you've got our family name, a lineage, travellers, they're bred to fight. So in terms of that, I thought he handled it really well.
Yeah, that's something my brothers have said to me, My brothers would have said exactly the same thing. You don't beat him, you're not coming home. Or you don't beat him, mate, you better change your name to Ma's name or someone else's name because you're not getting our name after. That's exactly the type of thing that would have been said. And it is tongue-in-cheek, but it's sort of letting you know, don't fuck this up. Yeah. That's sort of like, families are similar, families are the same, fighting families, whatever you want to call them. I'm not comparing us to the Furies, obviously, but we are a fighting family. But it is that sort of thing. Don't be embarrassing us as well, you know what I mean? And losing to someone like Jake Paul would have been very embarrassing, but I thought he handled the pressure great. I thought he done really good because at the end of the day, it's a fight with someone who can throw a dig. And if you can throw a punch and you can land that punch, you might actually ask questions of you because you never know until you get caught on a chin clean on the night. Jake Paul, he's not a mug, he's not good by any stretch of the imagination, he's terrible. But journeymen are terrible sometimes, although they can handle himself and defend himself, and you can still slip up and lose to one of them. So the pressure on him would have been massive, and as well as the pressure to perform and to get paid well, and knowing that if I win this, I can probably make double this in the rematch as well, and I'm set for life. So that type of pressure, I thought he's done brilliant handling that. Don't forget, he's 23 years of age. You know what I mean? When I was 23, I first became a dad at 23. I remember thinking, when I think back, I was a kid. But he's a kid. He's just become a dad, and he's still relatively young in the head. So he's took the pressure brilliant, and good luck to him. And I wish him well, and anything he does. You mentioned John Fury. I love John Fury. As soon as I seen him in Saudi, I went over, shook his hand, said hello. First thing he said was about Liam's win. Your lad's done great, your family are brilliant, this, that. And it's just nice to hear that from someone like him. I think he plays a good character as well. He's being himself, but he's playing a bit of a character when the cameras are on to try and, help his kids, help the family name, help everything else. But when you get him on his own in person, gentleman, respectful, polite, got a lot of time for everyone. And he's a boxing man as well, and that's something else which I like about it. He's actually been in there and done it. He fought as a pro, and he didn't make it, but he fought as a pro. He gave a good account of himself every time, and I admire him.
Yeah, he fought at times as well where he'd work in the day, fight at night, and John Fury, a lot of time for John. Mike Tyson, what was that experience like? I saw everyone trying to get a bit with him. You spent some bit of time with him. What's that like?
It was great. I've met him a few times. I didn't expect him to remember. I've met him about 4 times now, and every time it doesn't disappoint. The first time I ever met him was in Ricky Hatton when he fought Lascano at City. I said Main Road, but Man City's ground, the new one. And he was in the dressing room. I've got a great picture in the house. It's me, Matthew Macklin, Ricky Hatton, Tyson and De La Hoya all in a circle just talking after Ricky's fight when he's got his gear on, and it was a great experience. But then he was heavy. He didn't look happy. He didn't look himself. He looked just like he was. I got the impression it was like a drug tiger ready to snap someone on someone when someone said the wrong thing, and I was a bit on edge. I didn't really bother him too much. I got a photo and left him to it. In fact, I didn't get a photo. I just left him to it. The second time I met him, he came to Liverpool and he was doing a talk in Liverpool, and the lads organised and put me on the top tables. I was British champion at the time, and I'm from Liverpool, obviously. And I sat there for about 2-3 hours just talking pigeons with him. It was one of the best, most surreal experiences of my life.
He house pigeons.
Yeah, and I was racing pigeons at the time. I was showing him pictures of me loft, me birds. It was great, some experience. I met him again after that, but then this time in Saudi when he turned up, we were all in the same hotel together, so I ended up spending a bit of time with him again and just talking. I was there for a few hours with him, just a few of us sitting relaxing, and it was unbelievable. And then getting to see him just every day, and him saying hello back because you'd spent a bit of time having a coffee and that with him. It was great. It was some experience, but he was my hero growing up. He was the one I'd watch and I'd stay awake to watch. I was born in '82 when he was in his age. I was 5, 6, 7 years of age, coming through watching boxing all the time.
Prime Tyson.
Yeah, reading the magazines. Prime Tyson before he went to jail. And he's someone who got me into boxing. I watched him so much, and to get to sort of meet that type of person that you've idolised as a kid is always going to be. He's the one person that I've ever been like really starstruck with. Him and weirdly enough, Michael Owen. The first time I met him, I don't know why.
Michael Owen.
I don't know why.
I tell you what, I was when he played for us, but not anymore.
Yeah, I just was, and I don't know why. I had that little bit, but he's the main one, Tyson, and getting that chance to spend some time with him like that in Saudi was good because the place is brilliant. It was good. We really loved it.
Right, let's come on to Calum. Sadly, he's had to pull out. What's the update with him? Because I know he'll have been gutted, headlining in Liverpool. You know, you boys fill it out. You know, and everyone comes to see a Smith fight, and Calum's, you know, on the verge of a world title, boxing very, very well at the minute. Disappointed that this has happened?
Yeah, gutted. And as you say, you know, if he wasn't fighting for the world title, then it wouldn't really hurt as much. But he's fighting for the world title next, so that decision's come into play where, you know, there's a little niggle that's appeared, and fighting would be too detrimental to the world title fight and to everything else. So he's been advised to pull out medically, and he's just had a niggle in camp, and it's one of them things. It's unfortunate. It happens. It's happened a lot. It'll happen again. Hopefully not to him, but to other fighters, and that's the dangers when you're fighting. You know, it was literally the last week of camp that it happened, and that's what sort of I think has pissed him off a lot. You know, why couldn't it have happened in the first week, rather than putting all that graft in, all that work in, getting into that good shape. Yeah. Buddy McGear's been in the UK for a few weeks with him. You know what I mean? He's been over to LA, to Florida with Buddy this time. Sorry, and he's gone through all that, and then the fight gets pulled out he has to pull out with a week to go because of the fight. But ultimately, it's all roads leading towards Batavia having them 3 belts, and you can't risk nothing with that. And risking an injury, getting in the ring, fighting when you're not 100% isn't really something you want to do.
Batavia, look at all the fights that can happen in that division. You mentioned with Calum and Batavia, you've got Dimitri Bivol there. We've just seen what Anthony had introduced himself to the party very well against Batavia. I think he did as well as anyone else done against him. The division's red hot, and Calum seems to be only getting better, especially under Buddy. Have you noticed a change in Calum since he's gone with Buddy? You know, fairly fresh trainer, new ideas, punching with a hell of a lot of spite. What have you noticed in Calum? Any differences?
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of differences, and it's good, it's great for him. Buddy for me, I've always said that, you know, I've worked with Buddy, Matthew Macklin worked with Buddy, we both went there in like the around about 2007 to 2009, and as a coach, there's not many that can get near him. He's unbelievable as a boxing trainer, an old school boxing trainer. He's not going to stand there at the time you're on the track or take you swimming or do any strength and conditioning stuff with you. That's not what he's about. He's a boxing trainer. Once you're finished, you go and do your other stuff with your other coaches if you want, but you teach your boxing with Buddy, and he's an old school teacher. He knows the game inside out. He's been there and done it himself and got the t-shirt twice. And he's a 2-time world champion, 2-weight world champion in a time when it was proper, you know what I mean, 3 belt era, and he can fight himself. But as a coach, there's not many that come close to him. As I said, now the things I'm noticing with Calum, it's not reinventing the wheel, so to speak, but it's just getting him boxing properly and getting him using his hands and letting his hands go. You know, tactically he's very, very good. Technically, there's none that come close to him. And I remember talking to Calum saying, "How is he?" And I remember when I first went to Buddy, I felt shit for weeks. I felt like I couldn't box because the things he was correcting me on but then once you get it right, you realise it is like starting again, like a fresh start, like you know, there's a lot that Calum wasn't doing probably in the last couple of years that he wasn't being picked up on, the faults that were creeping in, things like that, and they get ironed out when you're with someone with a fresh pair of eyes who actually is watching what you're doing. You know, why you're moving your foot there, why you jabbing from out there, why aren't you stepping in range first, why are you doing this way? And the most important bit, what I'm saying is, it's always a why. You know, Buddy's asking you why are you doing that? You know, why wouldn't you do that? And it gets you thinking rather than make sure you put your foot there or do this or do that. And it's getting you to learn what you're doing wrong and to correct it and to fix it and to do it right. You know, don't do it if it's not correct. And that's how Calum is anyway. Calum's a perfectionist. He always has been since he was a kid, and he shouldn't be doing things if they're not right. And a few of them bad habits, a few things were creeping in, and with Buddy they're ironed out again. And he's boxing. He's letting his hands go. He's throwing shots correctly. He's tactically becoming better. And the power will always be there, the fitness will always be there, the desire will always be there. He's just got to work on the rest of the stuff which Buddy's helping with massively.
Absolutely. Quickly, let's just touch on Liam. I remember the build up to the Eubank fight. Liam said to me, straight dead-eyed me, he said, "Look, don't be fooled. He can be hurt." He says, "And I can definitely stop him." And everyone, including myself, you look at Eubank throughout the career and you're like, George Groves, you know, hits like a mule by all accounts, and he didn't really faze him. Liam went in there, and no disrespect to you, he obliterated him. What's next for Liam? We've seen that Chris has activated his rematch. Is that what's next? There's been talk. Billy Joe said, "Let's do some business." What's next?
Yep, Billy Joe, Janibek. Everyone's probably wanting a bit of Liam because he won so well, but the rematch is there. I think the rematch is the best fight for both fighters to take financially. You know, I don't think. Yeah, it's just business and financially. I don't think either fighter's going to make that amount against someone else. If Liam is number one with the WBC, number one with the WBO, or at middleweight, I believe, or Manchester Challenge at middleweight, then he's got options. Them options are still going to be there. Obviously, if he goes and fights Eubank again and beats him again, which I think he will. But as Liam said, you know, don't be fooled by this. I've hurt him before, I'll hurt him again, and he has. And that's technically 3 times he's had Eubank down now. Once in sparring, twice in a fight, so body and head. So he knows he can hurt him. And what happened in the fight, I didn't think would happen until probably rounds 10, 11, 12. You know, later on in the fight when Eubank has exhausted all other avenues and tired himself out, because I've said for ages, and I said all week in the build-up, and people can find the old interviews, I don't think Eubank has 12 rounds in him. And the fact that he hasn't got 12 rounds in him means he's going to have to stand up and box with a few. But then he's going to have to engage, and either way, I think Liam is going to be better than him. I felt Eubank I still do feel this, he's a better fighter than he is boxer. He's not a good boxer, but he's a good fighter. When he does what he does well, he's hard to compete against. But he can't do that for 12 rounds, and to beat someone like Liam or someone of any top level, you're going to have to do that for 12 rounds, and he doesn't do that for 12 rounds because he doesn't do it in the gym, and I don't think he listens to anyone enough, Roy Jones included, to actually put himself in that place or position, that nasty place and that horrible position that you have to be in the gym to be able to go there on fight night.
I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think Liam is criminally underrated? Because I do. You know, when you talk about Liam Smith, it's like, oh, he does the basics well. But when you see him up close, he doesn't just do the basics well. He's got every fundamental going straight up and down, not just where stand there, sit in the pocket, let his hands go. He's the way he's timing the distance. When people before the fight were saying, you looked at the odds, and Chris Eubank was heavily favoured, and I think Liam were like 3-1 to win on points. Obviously a knockout, maybe we didn't expect it, and maybe rightly so, but massively underrated. What's your opinion? Do you have the same sort of feeling towards it?
I've always had the same opinion and feeling towards it, but I just get told, it's your brother, you're going to say that. So I can't win. So me sitting there saying, Liam's one of the best fighters I've ever been in the ring with, and I used to spar him a lot for some of my fights, and people think, and I know my opponent to be sitting there thinking, you're sparring the light middleweight, you're fighting for the super middleweight title, or British super middleweight title, or whatever title, or whatever fight it was, and you're sparring the light middleweight. But I get more out of him than I would anyone around my own weight. He's strong enough and tough enough anyway, but his variety and his boxing brain on him, he's a clever bastard, Liam, man, and he's one of the smartest fighters out there. People just assume wrongly that he just gets in the ring and just plods forward with his hands high. And I used to see it all the time when people slag his old training off and say, oh, hands high, walk forward, as if like that was Liam. And I think like, it used to wind me up a little bit, because I think, you know, you're just showing what you know about boxing. If you can't see what Liam is, then what's the point in me sitting there arguing it and shouting from the rooftops how good he is? No, he's actually very good. I know he's very good. I don't care who else knows that. You know, it doesn't really bother me. But to write Liam off and to not understand how good he is that speaks about you, not Liam or the people around him who know him. I'll put him in with anyone in the world. I'll back him against anyone in the world, and I have done in the past. And people just slag it and say, it's because it's your brother. Yeah. But you know, have a look when things go the way they should or the way we say they do. It's you were lucky, or his weight was done, or this or that. It's never just giving credit. You know, he's a fucking good fighter, and you're right what you're saying. You know what? I'll actually pay more attention to it now. He can do that what you're saying. He does do that what you're saying. He did do what he said he'd do. He's a quality fighter. He's very good. He's tough as fuck, and his boxing IQ's up there with anyone.
I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do next. Right, I've got to touch on this with you, Conor Benn. We've always seen this statement come out by the WBC, high consumption of eggs. I know you had comments on that. I've seen in other interviews. Since then, though, Conor has come out with a statement and said, nah, he's not having it. He wants to be cleared in a different way. It almost feels like the WBC have gone, there's your door, walk through it, and he's gone, no, this is what's happened. This is what's happened in the build-up. This test was taken 4 times. People apparently weren't allowed in the lab from Conor's team, and apparently he's going on Piers Morgan Monday to talk about it. As a straight-up talking man, what's your opinion on this? Because it's something that just keeps going on and on and on.
Firstly, I feel sorry for him having to sit with Piers Morgan for a few hours. I wouldn't have stood on fucking anyone. Secondly, you know, it's one of them things where you're right, he has had an easy way out and he hasn't chosen to take it. Yeah. The fact that that's happening, I want to believe him so much. I want him to be completely innocent. I like the kid, he's a nice lad. The fact is, something's in the system that shouldn't be there. Something's in the system that's linked with testosterone sort of a masking agent or something you take after a cycle of testosterone. That old saying, there's no smoke without fire, is very, very true in life, and especially in boxing. You know, the doctor that was sniffing round and everything that was happening. So it's a case of, you know, I hope he's right, and I hope it is that way. But whether it is or not is another matter.
Good,
Can't wait for your next interview. I'm going to fuck it up.
IFL sabotaging your interviews, mate. Wanting the YouTube clicks, I wouldn't have that. No, it's. I hope he's innocent. I like the lad. I can't say it enough. Facts are. It doesn't really look like that. But if he's willing to spend further money, further, you know, litigation, go through further sort of questioning and dig up more things just to try and prove his innocence, then I hope he does. I hope he does get there. But again, it is what it is. You know, if there's a risk of contamination in a lab, then that's great news for Conor Benn, and that's great news for boxing, because none of us really want to believe that what is looking like the obvious thing to happen happened. I hope he hasn't been cheating. I hope he hasn't been taking drugs. But it doesn't look that way, unfortunately for him, and unfortunately for boxing as a whole. I hope he does prove his innocence.
Absolutely. Well, look, Paul, I appreciate you giving us some of your time. This interview's gone longer than I anticipated, and I know we said it'd be quick, but thanks for talking to Boxing Social. We'll catch up again.
Thanks, mate. Enjoyed it.